What a scary reminder that the Cowboys sent on Monday Night Football to the rest of the NFL during their win versus the LA Chargers. Let's get to it and some of the biggest takeaways for the game. Here we go. What is up, everyone, and welcome into A to Z Sports Dallas Primetime. I am your host, Mauricio Rodriguez, streaming with you live every Sunday through Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central here on Dallas On Demand Sports Talk Network with a lot more content coming your way. Make sure that you check out a2zsports.com/Dallas. And as always, do me a favor and hit the like button for me as it helps me put this show in front of more and more Cowboys fans. How about them Cowboys? They are 4-2. What a win on Monday night. Wasn't necessarily the prettiest of wins in several ways. We'll talk about the penalties. We'll talk about a lot of stuff. But it is a win and one that the Cowboys desperately needed entering the bye week because 4-2, 3-3, huge difference between those two records. So tonight, we will break it all down. Ladies and gentlemen, quick glance at the script. The Cowboys sent a scary reminder towards the rest of the NFL. CeeDee delivered on the wide receiver one talk, and we'll talk about the other two wideouts. I think there's a lot to say there. Dak Prescott using his legs. We'll talk more about that and overall what his game looked like. Some closing thoughts at the end and the one cool thing. Welcome everyone into the show once more. I'm so happy to be here, man. So happy to be here on this Tuesday night so we can talk about the game because the thing that excites me the most about talking about the game is that it's the first one where I felt like we were on the edge of our seats. If you think about it, the Cowboys have won in blowout wins this year, right? The first 3 wins were blowout wins. And then there was a Cardinals game, which didn't really felt like it came down to the wire. Even the play where Dak Prescott is intercepted in that game, like it was a game that was not being defined by one possession. Like it was a 2-possession game when that happened. And then there was the whatever happened in San Francisco. We won't talk about that tonight, but it wasn't really a tense game. It wasn't really like, oh, the game is tied again. It's the Cowboys now. It's the Chargers. So that was a first in the season, and I'm excited about all of that. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get right to it. Cowboys sent a fearsome reminder to the NFL during this win. And shout out to Toxic Tom and Bruce and everyone that is tuning in into the show right now. We've also got Gregory in the chat. Thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, Micah Parsons and the Cowboys reminded the NFL that they are still it. Because this defense, still legit. The Niners had people thinking that that was not the case. The Niners had people thinking that the Cowboys defense was actually overrated. I think Monday night was a reminder that they are actually not at all. And people have been talking about this game as if Justin Herbert was missing passes just because he was missing passes. But people fail to consider that the Cowboys actually pressured the Chargers quarterback in 47.6% of his dropbacks. To put that into perspective, that's the highest pressure rate that Herbert has faced all season long. So you want to talk about Herbert misfiring, and you want to talk about the Chargers leaving plenty of points on the table, you better do it while giving the Cowboys pass rush some props. 18 passes Justin Herbert threw under pressure. He completed 8 of those per Pro Football Focus. That's a 40% completion rate when under pressure. And it was not only Micah who led the team with 8 of them, 8 pressures total. Ozo Digisuwa, who might have been the best defensive player in this one, honestly, had himself a heck of a game. 6 pressures. DeMarcus Lawrence had 4 for himself. And then you had 5 other players record at least 1 pressure in this game. Now, let me remind you what we talked about on Sunday night. This wasn't the Cowboys beating up on a weak offensive line. People were able to claim that versus the Jets, versus the Giants. maybe even versus the Patriots. This was not that. And we talked about it on Sunday. The Chargers were top 10 in the NFL in lowest pressure rate allowed. And that was with Justin Herbert pushing the ball downfield. So it wasn't like they were mitigating a weak offensive line with quick passing. They were just good. They were doing a good job. Cowboys changed that right away. They were on Herbert. They were forcing the missed throws. You guys know Micah's name was not called a whole lot during the broadcast, but you look at the game, and I'm dying to get my hands on this old 22. I've got it, but I have not started watching it and taking notes. But apparently, and it was apparent during the game, is what I mean. The Chargers were just spending a lot of resources on holding down Micah Parsons, and he still had 8 pressures on this game. And you want to talk about timeliness? That second and 2 sack that he got towards the end of the game to set up 3rd and long, and the eventual Stephon Gilmore game-winning or game-sealing would be a more appropriate term, interception. Micah was, man, timely. That was a moment for Micah Parsons for sure. He was fighting so hard to get to the quarterback. Finally did at the end of the game. I thought this was a reminder, man, that the Cowboys are still one of the best defenses in the NFL. Now, I swear I'm not trying to pat myself on the back here, but I think back to that Thursday show when we were like, yeah, we're betting the under on this game, 50.5. I thought that was the market really overreacting to whatever happened versus the 49ers. That was the market saying, oh, the Cowboys actually do not have a good defense, which was apparently the idea for many people during this week. And by the way, the Cowboys were able to overcome Leighton Van Der Esch's absence at linebacker. And they didn't have to play Micah a whole lot in the box in order to do that. 59 snaps for Micah at the defensive line, just 8 of them in the box. Gotta love that split. Gotta love it, man, because that means Micah Parsons was out there killing it while somebody else picked up some slack at linebacker. And you know exactly who I'm talking about here, because Marquise Bell, he didn't necessarily send a reminder to the rest of the NFL, but he did send a message. Marquise Bell, although he looks like a safety, although he weighs like a safety, looked like a seasoned veteran at linebacker last night. He had 5 stops, most in the team on Monday Night Football. He just looked great. I don't have to tell you this. Number 14 was celebrating pretty often on Monday night, and he was making some great plays, shooting through the A-gap, running through traffic. How about that goal line play where he is coming from the middle of the field? He is running to the sideline, making the tackle. The Cowboys ultimately do not get the stop in that goal line stand, but that was a huge play for Marquise Bell. You got to be excited about him. He's been a little bit of a process. Remember, preseason started looking great. Early in the year, we started liking what Marquise Bell was showing. And then he had that roller coaster ride that is normal of a second-year player that is learning a new position. You would expect him to hit some lows. But Monday night was no lows, all highs for Marquise Bell. And it sure made us excited about the prospects of this defense, because suddenly you're looking at it, and then Clark is your linebacker, Bell is your linebacker. All of a sudden, I'm not in a rush to get Rashaan Evans 50% of the defensive snaps, who was just signed a few days ago. Sure, I want to see a rotation. I want to see some new guys at linebacker, and I want to see the Cowboys try stuff. But now I don't feel the need to play Rashaan Evans right away. I don't feel the need to have Micah Parsons play linebacker. And again, he did for some plays, but mostly he was where he deals the most damage. And what does that lead to? 8 pressures. Chargers consistently sliding their protections to Micah, consistently trying to deal with Micah, generating one-on-ones elsewhere. Gotta love that. Gotta love that, man. And now I also need to mention it. How about Dayron Bland? 8 times he was targeted, allowed 3 catches. He allowed 5 yards after the catch in those 3 receptions that he allowed, plus 2 breakups, 2 pass breakups. You guys know that he was close to 2 interceptions, honestly. One in the end zone and one in the at the end of the game where he would have had a pick six had he come down with that football. But the play that most impressed me about Bland is one where Justin Herbert is running a keeper, kind of like a bootleg, and Dayron Bland has the backside drag route or like shallow route, whatever you want to call it. Man, Bland is with his player step by step. That was just insane coverage from Bland, and a reminder that the Cowboys are fine at cornerback, even without Trayvon Diggs. So overall, my biggest takeaway from this game, it's gotta be the way that the defense looked. Moving forward, you know that this defense is still elite. And sure, when they face the 49ers, it might get ugly. But hey, that's going to be the case for most teams in the NFL. Shout out to the Cleveland Browns. Gotta give them credit, right? For making the 49ers look like we wanted the Cowboys to make them look. Shout out to them. They did a great job. But the Cowboys, step in the right direction, trending in the right direction after week 5. Great performance in week 6 overall. Let me see some of your comments here, and then we'll get into my concern or my complaint about the Cowboys defense. Let's see here. Toxic Tom says, I loved those vintage Kellen Moore curl routes in the final drive. Man, number one, 100% right. Number two, this on the ESPN broadcast when they were like, that's the best play the Cowboys have had all night, and it's not in the playbook, which was Dak Prescott improvising and finding Pollard play. We'll talk about that later on the show. But yeah, man, I thought that was a little bit funny. Let's see here. Toxic Tom says, who was that Cleveland wide receiver who made those big plays? Always get separation. Why can we get wide receiver? Let's get to the complaints, man. Let's get to the complaints. This defense cannot be called for as many penalties as they were last night. And it goes for the defensive side of things. Shout out to the people who are letting me know that the I hate these Wi-Fi issues, man. I really do. Nothing I can do about them right now. But so hopefully you still listen to me appropriately or comfortably. Anyways, I'll move on in the meantime, and I'll keep going with the show. One and the worst thing about it is that they're not penalties or you're not they are dumb mental mistakes like being lined up offside. We saw that from Micah even in the game, or having too many defensive players on the field, that kind of stuff. If you're getting called because you're getting beaten, I'm going to complain either way, but it's not going to be the same. It should be unacceptable, and it gets exhausting when it is year 3 for Mike McCarthy, actually year 4, excuse me. Cowboys in the ass, and you're just not being a disciplined football team. Absolutely needs to get better. Big games, you cannot allow to have that. It almost cost the Cowboys in several moments. Brian Anger nailing the Chargers at their 2-yard line. And then that drive was eternal because twice a flag moved the chains for the Chargers. That is frustrating as heck. Hopefully it doesn't keep happening. Hopefully the Cowboys end up fixing that. Man, hope that we're back with the Wi-Fi. I think that we are. The worst thing is that this time my software wasn't even like flagging the internet. I was just getting the comments from you. So I that is frustrating for sure. Usually it will let me know like, hey, your Wi-Fi is bad right now. Gotta fix it. But right now I wasn't even getting that. But it sounds like we're back. Sounds like we are fully back. If you guys were not able to hear anything at all of what I was saying just earlier in the show, let me just say I was complaining about the penalties. They need to be better. It needs to get better. Inexcusable. Inexcusable when it's that kind of flags that you are getting called against you. Pass interference, okay, you were beaten. Holding, you were beaten. But too many men on the field, which happened multiple times, by the way. Like, they were called for it once, but multiple times. It was evident that the Cowboys were just confused on who should be on the field and who shouldn't be on the field. Cannot have that. Unacceptable. Micah cannot be lined up offsides. Listen, the Jaron Kears unnecessary roughness, helmet-to-helmet thing that they called, I don't even care about that one. I don't even care about that one because it's a tough play. I don't know what Jaron can do in that situation. I understand the flag getting thrown. I mean, the rule is the rule, and you look at it and, hey, okay, it's going to get flagged 9 out of 10 times. But I don't know what Jaron Kears can do in that scenario. So I'm fine with that one. Too many men on the field and all of that stuff, to me, is what really becomes very frustrating. Needs to get better. Now, thank you to Team. Thank you for joining the show and being here. Thank you to you all for sticking with me during the Wi-Fi issues. I need to get those fixed, man. But a lot of it is really not up to me. Issues with the best version of Wi-Fi that I could get. Let's talk about CeeDee Lamb here because he deserves to be the first guy we talk about if we are moving on to the wide receivers. CeeDee Lamb was targeted 7 times in this game. How many catches do you think he got? It was 7 for 117 yards, and it gets better. Every time that CeeDee was targeted, the chains moved. 7 targets, 7 catches, 7 first downs for number 88. Quite the turnaround for the player who honestly had to complain during the week about not getting the ball enough. You know, he did it post-game versus the Niners. Talked to McCarthy, talked to Dak Prescott during the week. You know, feed me, the number 1 wide receiver on the team. Talk about a way to deliver. 29 yards after the catch, by the way, too, for CeeDee Lamb. And how about this quote that he dropped after the game was over. Real number one receiver talk from CeeDee Lamb. Here we go. He says, when things go bad or when things go good or bad, I'm still confident in myself. Like I said before, I like me versus anybody, man to man. That's what you want to hear from CeeDee. And boy, did the Cowboys give him a chance. And when I say the Cowboys, sure, go to. But also, we saw a lot of instances where Dak Prescott was scrambling and he found CeeDee to move the chains. Again, every catch was a first down for CeeDee. That's why the game seemed so big for him and so big for the offense. And CeeDee Lamb kept it real. He explained, man, when you target me and you get me involved early in the game, good things are going to happen for the team. And some of the best drives from the Cowboys, Dallas was targeting CeeDee first and second down. Like they were going to him early in some of these drives. And I want to see more of that. More of that, please. CeeDee Lamb, what a game he had, man. That's the kind of stuff that you want. You know, Jamar Chase 2 weeks ago called for the ball, came back with a huge game. Now, CeeDee last week called for the ball, and the same story. That's what you want out of a number one guy. And clearly, the Cowboys understand or understood what CeeDee was trying to say during the week. So if you want to ask me about one of the most promising developments on Monday Night Football, it was that CeeDee got his wish, got targeted, and also happened to deliver big time. Speaking of delivering at wide receiver, there's one guy that really did not do that, and that's Michael Gallup. And I know what many of you are thinking. I've already seen a lot of the comments. Let me try to get to some of them. I think it was Katharina who said earlier in the game that was an amazing game they played great besides Gallup. She also said Gallup sucks, Mo. People are upset about Gallup, and I don't blame you. I do not blame you. There was at least another comment about this. John on Facebook says, is it safe to say that it's Jalen Tolbert time? It could be. It really could be, John. I agree with you. I think it is, personally, at this point. Michael Gallup was targeted 10 times in this game, which that number alone makes you uncomfortable, right? CeeDee had 7 targets. Michael Gallup had 10 targets. Gotta hate it. 3 catches for Michael Gallup. That makes 7 incompletions between Dak and Michael Gallup. And for context, Dak had 9 incompletions in this game. So 7 of 9 incompletions were from Dak targeting Michael Gallup. One of them happened to be potentially the best throw Dak Prescott made all night when he would have had Gallup over the seam for a touchdown. Because, man, that was a dime. When you talk about perfect, that is what it looks like for a quarterback in the NFL. That play where he hits CeeDee Lamb, hits Michael Gallup, on both hands. And people want to complain about the no call from the refs there. And I get it. Complain about that if you want. But Gallup cannot complain if the flag comes out. Cannot control, in the flag comes out or not. He can control if he catches the easily catchable ball in the end zone. Gotta make a play. Gotta do it. There was another instance where the ball was a little bit higher and it was a little bit of a taller task. In my opinion, gotta come down with it. If you're Michael Gallup, he didn't. But the one that was an absolute dime was one that, even though the Cowboys won, I know we're going to have nightmares about during the week because you cannot have that. And Gallup, it's been a while since it's felt like he's a moments guy. Like he will have 2 big catches here and there during the season, but we have yet to see a pace off for the Cowboys offense. Truth is, we have not seen that. We have not seen that, to be honest. and it's frustrating. And now you do get into this conversation of, will we get to see more Jalen Tolbert or not? And the reality is, I hope that we do see more Tolbert. I think it's time for Cowboys lost to the Niners. And I think Monday night was really kind of confirmation of that. Much him as much is impressive to me at this point, by the way. Now, speaking of the other wide receiver, the one that was somewhere in the middle, you get Brandon Cooks. 4 targets, 4 catches, about 30 yards receiving wise, and a great touchdown. But it wasn't only the touchdown, which was cool. Cowboys had Dak Prescott backpedaling, throws a nice dime also towards the left side of the end zone. And Brandon Cooks is running from one sideline to the other because he's running kind of like a drag route, just running as fast as he can to get to his landmark. And Dak finds it. And it's a great play, great touchdown that really secures the game basically for the Cowboys. Not really, but like it was one of the most critical points in the game. And there was also another play where he's attacking upfield, kind of stops, gains separation, works back, jumps up in the air, pulls down the football. Great play. What did we see in that particular instance? Gaining separation, jumping, making the contested catch. That's helping your quarterback. Something that we have not seen at all from Michael Gallup. And these two games felt so different for the two wideouts that it was frustrating, right? Brandon Cooks not getting a lot of targets, yet helping out a ton. Gallup getting a whole lot of targets, not helping out basically at all. And the thing with Gallup is that I cannot remember a whole lot of plays where he is clearly winning separation or gaining separation. We don't see that in these games. It's usually a slant where he's perfectly covered up, and Dak is trusting him to fight for the football. And listen, I'm not going to put this on Dak because some people want to say, why is he throwing the football to Gallup if he's not stepping up to the plate? But I think that the Cowboys offense is really not one where they have one concept on one side and another on the other. And if it's zone, we target this side, or if it's man, we target this side. I don't think they do a whole lot of half or split field concepts. I think that the Cowboys are really playing a lot of full progressions, right? Sideline to sideline. So if Gallup is the first guy in the progression and there's a window and go away from what the reads dictate, he's not that kind of quarterback, and he shouldn't be that kind of quarterback because one of his biggest strengths it sounds simple, like if he's not winning, why are you throwing him the football? But Dak's gonna respect the reads because that's what he does best. To Michael Gallup, and we'll see if he gets better. That's how I feel about the whole thing. Speaking of Tolbert, man, did he had himself a moment in the game. That was frustrating. Maybe won't get too much into the weeds on that one, but I'll say this. I think it was the right call from the refs regarding the fact that he did touch it first. How a picture that kind that was a hands to the face when they were pushing Tolbert into Torpin. Does not get any clearer than that. And then you could also argue that he gets pushed in most games. And I'll give him the point like, hey, it's a weird play. You're not going to get a whole lot of flags when that type of stuff happens. But it was nonetheless painful to watch. It really was. Regarding the rule for the interference, I think it's the right call, though. Like, cannot have his hands on the face mask, right? Pushing him into Turpin. But the rules say if you call for a fair catch, the kicking team cannot touch you or interfere with your catch, or they cannot grab somebody that is passive and shove him in. Not passive on that play. He was blocking actively. So that's why the refs called it the way that they did, but they did miss the penalties, which was a frustrating part of the play, in my opinion. Anyways, just a quick parenthesis on that because I know it was a controversial play. Last but not least here, before we get to the one cool thing of the week, how about Dak Prescott? Let me know in the chat. How would you grade Dak Prescott's game? Drop your grade for Dak Prescott in the chat. Because I thought he was great. I thought he was, man. And some people are going to fixate on the Tony Pollard play, which I don't know if it was on Dak or Pollard. I'll get you a better answer when we get to the goal 22, potentially tomorrow night. But I have nothing to say about his game last night. And I thought he overcame so many of the play calling mistakes that we saw on this one. Once again, he was bailing out the Cowboys in 3rd and long situations. How about that Pollard play, by the way? So you got the dime to Brandon Cooks. You got the uncaught dime to Michael Gallup. And then you had this guy being pressured. I do have something negative to say about him, actually. We'll get to that. But he was facing pressure on this third left. Right. And then jumps up in the air, throws across his body to a wide open Tony Pollard over the middle of the field, but then eventually makes a play himself, breaking the tackle, 60-yard gain, and the Cowboys were at the 16-yard line of the Chargers. I'm telling you now, that was the most impactful play of the game. It had to be. That was where the Cowboys essentially sat down at the wheel and got the win. Sure, they had to do a whole lot of other stuff, including the Micah Parsons and Stephon Gilmore plays at the end of the game. But man, that was great work from Prescott. Let's see some of your answers here. How would you grade his game? A for Toxic Tom. Gregory goes with B+. Modelo with B+. Katharina A-. Bruce with B+. Tom915 says B-. Played a great game. One of the most frustrating ones, was when he was working to his right and just felt so forced, like he wanted a deep shot. I don't know if he was sure that he had it, if he had the time, or what was that, but need to get rid of football in some of those situations and really need to avoid the sack in some of those situations. And I thought many of them were on him. I don't know exactly how many. We'll see when we get to the old 22. But during the game, it sure felt like Prescott made some of those mistakes. Now, that being said, you don't have a clue. Maybe you do, because you probably were going through the same emotions. When Prescott pulled that football and walked untouched to the end zone, 18 yards, I was losing my mind. Could use another word, but I was losing it completely. 18-yard rushing touchdown for Dak Prescott. Finally kept it. And you know my theory on this whole thing. I think at an organizational level, the Cowboys do not want Dak Prescott to run the football. But you see a lot of wasted plays where he's running the keeper and he doesn't keep it, or running the rear option, and he doesn't keep it. And now he did. And you had CeeDee Lamb working back on like the orbit motion. Probably had the potential to be a triple option play. I'm not entirely sure, but it sure looked like he could have pitched it to CeeDee Lamb if he wanted to. It was obviously not the read because the secondary was working to number 88. There was this crazy next gen stats number that said that at the moment of the fake handoff, after the fake handoff, Prescott had an 87% chance of moving the chains on 4th and 1. He obviously did much more than that because he scored from 18 yards out. Also scrambled during this game, 9-yard gain, 11-yard gain, scrambling and also scrambling and throwing aggressively. Should Dak Prescott or should he not keep running the football more often? Let me know in the chat. Prescott chimed in on this conversation, by the way, and he basically said, man, it was a little bit of a conscious effort from me to scramble a little bit more and to use my legs more, but he does think that it's something that can benefit the offense. Now, McCarthy was asked about it, and he was like, there's scrambling and there is running, which is obvious. It's different. But he did say, I don't want Dak Prescott running the football 12 times a game. He was up to 7, including scrambles on Monday night. But I do want to see more of this, man. The Cowboys have struggled in the red zone, as you guys know, as I know. I think that unleashing his legs in those sort of situations would go a long way. And hopefully, now that you get this 18-yard touchdown from him, next time the defensive ends are going to respect him a little bit more and maybe open up some stuff for Tony Pollard or whoever is pounding the rock at that time. But I do think that mostly when Cowboys run plays that either are read plays or zone read plays or just Dak Prescott faking that he's keeping the football, 9 out of 10 times or 9.9 out of 10 times, defenders are not respecting Dak. They're just going at the running back, and the Cowboys are still handing it off to the running back. Didn't see that on Monday night when Dak actually kept it and walked untouched into the end zone. But you got to keep doing it in order for it to be a threat. I don't know if the Cowboys will, but I do want to see more of that. Katharina says he should run more than he does. Awesome. Shout out to Joey Bella, who is here on the show as well. Inez says, yes, Dak to run more when he can. So some people here voting for Prescott to use his legs a little bit more moving forward. That is something that I would absolutely love. Roger says, Cowboys defense is even better with Bell instead of Van Der Esch. They are much faster. I would love to see some of the numbers on that. Now, on and off numbers are not the same, are not easy to really break down. But I don't know. I think that Van Der Esch is a little bit underrated. 681 Boys says, especially run more, and then you get RPOs in the red zone. That is true. You start unlocking stuff consistently, right? That way. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, Dak's game was much more than just running the football. I think he had himself a great game. So good for him. Had to bounce back, and hopefully we see more of those legs near the red zone. It's crazy to me. First 3 years in the league, he had 6 rushing touchdowns per year. Like every year, he had 6 on the ground. Since then, which would be 2019 until now, he has 9 touchdowns total. That is crazy. Crazy low when you compare it to the fact that he had 18 touchdowns in the first 3 years running the football. To me, it was B- as Anthony. That was pretty much the range that we got on the chat. B- to A+. I would honestly stick with either A or A- because of the sacks. Other than that, I thought he was pretty great. And I thought he was the reason why the Cowboys were able to score on offense because, man, some of those play calls were not great in some of the situations. Ronnie says they still need to address the running back situation. Malik Davis was called up for this game, and Deuce Vaughn was a healthy scratch, by the way. Something to monitor. If you guys were not in the lookout for the inactives and you didn't realize, Deuce Vaughn actually did not dress up on Monday. And as soon as the Cowboys called up Malik Davis, I thought it was pretty evident, because the thing about Deuce is that he has not played a lot on special teams. And if Turpin is returning the kicks and punts, Deuce Vaughn is not going to earn a big role on special teams because he doesn't really have the size. Now that the Cowboys were navigating injuries, CJ Goodwin, which, man, was apparent right away, by the way, and others, they had to have somebody else, and that cost Vaughn his chance to play. We'll see what that means moving forward. Toxic, having fun with the fact that I said big role when talking about Deuce Vaughn. Man, that's the way it goes for short people like me. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, how about we get out of here with a feel-good segment, and we talk about our one cool thing of the week. For those of you who are new to the show, every Tuesday we do the one cool thing of the week, which is where everyone shares something personal, professional, sports related. In the chat, what is your one cool thing of the week? Let's see what you guys have to say. It says, one cool thing, Dallas won after losing to the 49ers. I love it. Too bad we're on a bye week already. Toxic says, one cool thing, I have excellent Wi-Fi. You had me there. You got me there, Toxic. Need to get this one improved. I know. My one cool thing, honestly, man, is that I really, really, really did not want to get through 2 weeks of content here on the show or on my articles or on the radio or whatever. I did not want to go through 2 weeks of content talking about back-to-back losses for the Cowboys. I really did not want that. And the fact the Cowboys won on Monday maybe pushes some of the tough conversations down the road, and we can have fun during the bye week. We can have fun leading up to the Rams game in week 8. We're going to have some fun during the rest of the week. Ronnie says, I have a one cool picture of Tony Romo and Des Bryant with all their achievements. Says Ronnie, there you go. One cool thing, is somebody going to mention Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson talking pregame, or is no one buying anything imminent, if you will? That was an interesting moment of the game. Ladies and gentlemen, do me a favor, hit the like button for me. And remember that every night we are here 8 p.m. Central. Bruce says, one cool thing is Cowboys content creators making the buy go past smoothly. There you go. We're going to be here every night, as you guys know. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Central. Thank you so much. As always, hit the like button for me.